Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Dartmouth School Committee to order for Monday, December 21st, 2020. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, happy holidays, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind the committee members to please silence your cell phones. Anyone up here, anyone else in the room, even though there's only a few of us, please put them on vibrate. Thank you. And as a reminder, per Governor Baker's order, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the public will not be allowed to physically access this school committee meeting. Members of the public can access the meeting via live stream at youtube.com/DHSTV Media. In addition, the event will be rebroadcast on DCTV channels 9 and 18 on the following days: Wednesday and Thursday at 5 p.m., Friday at 6 a.m., Saturday at 8 a.m., and Sunday at 2 p.m. The school committee reserves the right to implement additional remote participation procedures and will notify the public of these procedures as soon as practicable. And as always, a big shout out to Mr. Parati and his students helping to film this meeting, and our friends also at Dartmouth Community Television. Could I have a roll call, please?
Chris
Ms.
Oliver.
Genther. Here.
Shannon Jenkins.
Here.
Kathleen Amaral.
Here.
Mary Waite.
Here.
John Nunes.
Yep.
Thank you very much. At this time, we typically allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak on any of tonight's agenda items. I know that Ms. Genther has received 2 so far. Is that correct? Correct. So, and everyone has had those forwarded to your inboxes, your email inboxes, for review. And anyone else wishing to comment on any of tonight's agenda items can do so by emailing Ms. Genther at kathleengenthner at dartmouthschools.org if you wish to comment on any of the agenda items, and we will certainly circle back at the end of the meeting. That being said, could I have a motion to approve the regular session minutes of December 7th, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Mrs. Amaral. On the motion, any discussion? Chair hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the emergency open session minutes of December 15th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Nguyen, second by Mrs. Waite. On the motion, any further discussion? Chair hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to take, if it's okay with the committee, I'm going to take an item out of order so we don't have our friends over at Quinn wading through some of the older business. So at this time, I'd like to, I guess I'll turn it over to Dr. Gifford to welcome whoever will be joining us to discuss the Quinn PTO financial report.
Sure, thank you. I believe we have Mr. Granfield from the principal of Quinn Elementary, as well as I think it's the PTO president, to talk about some of the fundraising and the financial report. Since we're not really doing the typical this year, they thought they'd come on board and let us know what's going on. So,
Great. Thank you, Dr. Gifford. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hi, how are you?
Okay.
Linda, Kyle.
Good. So we have Mr. Granfield, and who else is with us?
Hi, I'm Linda Hamilton. I'm the PTO president.
Great. Well, welcome, and thank you for joining us, Linda.
Thank you.
Mr. Granfield, maybe you should start and let us know why you are all here tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having us tonight. We sent over the financial report from last year. As Linda had highlighted in a cover sheet, the Color Run was a huge success for us last year. We had a lot that we're planning to do with the money that was raised by the PTO and our entire school organization. and then the pandemic hit, and then all the field trips and everything we had slated obviously got put to the side. This year, we're not planning at this point on doing any any fundraisers, and that was all highlighted. Linda, if you want to add to that, of what you put in the cover sheet.
So we have $35,000 that we're actually carrying over from last year. So thankfully, we don't have to do any fundraising this year. We can just completely fund everything that we normally would do for the school, for students and staff, without any fundraising. So we're still able to support the school the way we normally do and not have to put any burden on families this year. So.
No, that is great. Thank you both. You folks are really lucky that you're able to, that the fun run was such a success, or the color run, I'm sorry, it was such a success last year, and you're able to carry that money forward to assist with different projects or for different services this year. So I'll turn it over to any of my colleagues if any of them have any questions for either of you.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
I have nothing, just a comment as a Quinn parent alum. I just want to comment on what an amazing, of course, all the PTOs are very active and amazing in district, but I follow you as an alum, and it is so wonderful to see all of the ways in which you do things for the staff, you know, even the beginning of the year with the ice cream truck, during their PD day, you know, their days of in person for the first time, and all of the special food that you provide, and just the ways in which you make them feel valued and special is incredible. And earlier before the meeting, we were joking with Jonathan how his voice is well known and he's somewhat of a celebrity. When your face popped up, I thought, well, you're a celebrity to me, because whenever I see I don't even know you. I don't think we've even met, but you are, you know, a local celebrity. So you and your team are just so wonderful, and I hope that you feel appreciated as well for the work that you put in is much appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just end with, thank you again for everything that you do for the Quinn students and for the Dartmouth Public Schools. $35,000 it's a lot of money to supplement programs, and as I look through here, your list of expenses and all the different activities and staff appreciations and incentives, there's a lot that goes on, and obviously none of this would be possible without the support of the Quinn School PTO and really all the PTOs across the district. So do you have anything for us? Anything else for us?
Nope, nothing else.
If I could just add to that, I wanted to close with that of, we're all so grateful at the Quinn School. And Ms. Amaral has touched upon a couple of the things that our PTO has already done to support our staff even during these times. But one thing I wanted to highlight was the first day of school this year, our PTO came and decorated each entranceway with creative messages and drawings that completely surprised everybody walking in on that first day of school. And they're constantly going above and beyond, not only our board members, but all of the parents that spend countless hours behind the scenes. You know, the color run in itself takes months of planning and meetings on a weekly basis, and just everything that they do for the school is absolutely unbelievable. And I know I'm speaking on behalf of the entire Quinn staff, administration, and all the parents. Our PTO is absolutely fantastic. So thank you again to Linda and to the entire PTO and board.
Thank you, Mr. Granfield. Hats off to you and the PTO over there. Happy holidays to you both.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we approve the financial report for the Quinn PTO and the budget for school year 2021.
A second, this motion?
Motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Mrs. Amaral. On the motion, any further discussion? No? Chair hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask that we all speak up a little? I think Ms. Genther is maybe having a hard time hearing us because there's like some fans running. I could see her over there going like this.
I was wondering what you were looking at.
So I think we just all need to speak up a little bit.
Okay, very good.
Do my best to project my voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Kate.
Next up on the agenda, we will continue with under old business. continued discussion of the Equality and Diversity Committee. So if I go back to minutes from the last meeting, we decided to hold off to this meeting to continue with some discussion about the appointment of 2 faculty and staff members and 2 community members. Am I missing anything from any of my colleagues? Is that correct? Does that sound right?
That's it.
I know that Ms. Genther put out some emails asking for some more information from those people looking to be on the committee. So I'll just like to turn it over to my colleagues, and what's your pleasure with this?
Well, I think, I apologize, I left my list at home. Nice smart move on my part. Sorry about that, but I think we've got a list of those people that, were interested the first time around and, who actually responded to Mrs. Gunther's request for information.
Right.
And if they did not reply, then it's my belief that they're not interested. So, no disrespect, they go to the wayside, and then we just work on whomever was interested in being on the committee. That's my,
So did everyone else bring their lists with them tonight
so you guys
of
got it on the
appointments?
computer.
I have it somewhere. I'm looking for
Yeah,
it.
I'm
but
looking
I-
for it.
But I do have it.
Okay. I will say that I did not, with everything going on with my in my personal life and at my job, and with COVID here and the emergency meeting, I did not have a chance to give this the time that it needed to look through. I have a couple of thoughts as far as who I would go with, but it's up to you. I don't want to delay the committee any longer. But Dr. Jenkins.
So I had some time to take a look at the community members and some of the staff members. And so I'll go ahead and get us moving. I'd like to make a motion on the community side that we appoint Ms. Shelley Scott and Ms. Elizabeth Murphy. So I'll leave that out there. Do you want me to explain my reasoning first, or do you want me to do you want to get a second on that?
Yeah, I'll second that in discussion.
So my reasoning is Ms. Scott, I think we had 4 community members respond, if I'm not mistaken. Gretchen Baker-Smith, Ms. Murphy, Ms. Scott, and I think Mr. Pereira.
Yeah.
I think we're the 4 that we had to respond. I know Ms. Scott personally. She works over at UMass Dartmouth. She's worked in student services for many, many years. So she has quite extensive experience dealing with a student body and dealing with issues around diversity. She does our campus housing. So she really knows students. She has children in the Dartmouth Public Schools, and her children are multiracial. And so I think she brings a really good experience, both as a parent of a mixed-race family, but also someone who has an extensive background in working with students. Ms. Murphy has also been involved with the schools for quite some time, serving on the Dartmouth DeMello PTO for many years. She has children, so she had children at DeMello, DMS, and now also the high school. And then in her professional life, she now works with community organization doing outreach to immigrants and immigrant students, particularly Latinx families, South American families. And so I think she has another sort of background working with underrepresented groups in our community. I will also say prior to that, she worked as a college counselor, so she also has experience in working with high school students. So from the pool of community members that we had, those 2, to me, seem to have very relevant experience and very interesting perspectives to bring to the table as we talk about these issues.
Any other comments or questions about that? Mr. Nunes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The one thing I do remember is some of the names, and, one of the, I have no problem with Ms. Scott. I was actually looking at Chris Pereira, who was an alumni of this high school, was a member of this committee, and also was a veteran, so encompass a a whole circle of, ideas and ideologies and things of that nature, and brings, again, a different, possibly different perspective on equity and diversity, to the table. So that was, my thought on that.
Did Mr. Pereira return?
I do believe so, yes.
Yeah. He was one of the, yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Okay, so we have, any other discussion, first of all?
Are we sticking with, community members in this?
I'm sorry?
Are we focusing
My
right now on
motion was
community
about
members?
community members.
So I think if we're, I'll just say, like, I was leaning towards the same two that Dr. Jenkins had brought up as well. I know Elizabeth Murphy, she's also in a pastoral services program right now. She's pursuing a postmaster's, I don't know exactly what the degree is, but I think at least a master's in pastoral services at the University of Chicago. So she's working on that online as well. So I think she, again, like, has a broad range. I don't know Ms. Scott as well, but again, again, her background certainly is fitting. She wrote a passionate, letter. She certainly seems to have some deep interest in, education and personal vested interest in diversity. So, I was leaning that direction as well. I thought that it was having children in the schools was important in this discussion as well. So that was another thought that I had. And both of those ladies do have children in this current school.
Do you want to add anything?
I mean, I
or-
don't really have anything to add. I think that the folks that reached out that were interested, all of them are qualified. I was, and then a few folks were no longer interested who had previously submitted interest, which is understandable. And then some people didn't respond. I was leaning toward Ms. Cott and Ms. Murphy. I was thinking around their background and their professional, what they do professionally. I have nothing against, I think Chris Pereira would also bring value to the committee. So I, quite honestly, I don't think we could go wrong with
Right.
it. So I don't know if that doesn't really narrow it down, but
No, I do agree. I do have a lot of respect for Chris Pereira and him being an alumni as well as our veterans agent. And he spent a lot of time working on
Yeah.
the stadium, the rededication of the stadium.
and I don't know Ms. Scott, but just reading her letter in
Right.
terms of all of her roles in her family and having children, I think that would bring great value, obviously, when speaking about, culturally and linguistically diverse. I think that's really important, but yeah, I sort of dozen of one, whatever that phrase is. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chris?
Well, we have a motion and we have a
Yep.
second on Elizabeth Murphy
Murphy
and
Miss Shelley Scott.
Shelley Scott. I know Elizabeth Murphy well. Her and I have corresponded a number of times. I did read the other letter. Well, I guess we can put it to a vote and.
I want to say one last thing, and I'm going to talk about principles of affirmative action. Affirmative action argues that, right, when we are faced with a decision between candidates that are equally qualified, that we should take into consideration questions of demographics. And I would argue that in this situation, when we are sort of having a debate about candidates who are all equally qualified, I think the fact that Ms. Scott is part of a multiracial family, her children have multiracial backgrounds, are in our schools, and so she brings that perspective to the table, and that is in strong part why I nominated her.
No, thank you. Very, very good point, Dr. Jenkins. Mr. Nunes?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to disagree with my colleague here for a second, only because of the fact, until she brought it up, I did not know that, she was we were talking about multiracial.
She put it in her letter that her
Okay,
children
I don't
are
remember
multiracial.
exactly what she had in her letter. I mean, I remember reading it, but I don't remember what was in the letter, contents type of deal. So that wasn't playing into my decision at all. And things of that nature never play into my decision, whether it's hiring somebody or trying to put somebody on a committee. That's not part of my makeup. I don't look at that at all. I'm looking to put the best people into a position. So, you know, I just wanted to know that. That's,
Okay. Anything else? So I just want to, writing down some names here.
I would just want to thank Kate for reaching out
Yeah.
to everyone.
Yeah.
That was a big job, Kate.
Yeah, no,
Thank
thank
you,
you very
Kate.
much
Appreciate it. And then
for
forwarding
sending
to
that
us,
out and
so,
the second time.
yeah.
So we have Elizabeth Murphy, and one more time,
Shelley
Shelley
Scott.
Scott.
Shelley Scott. Trying to look at the big picture here of everything, so I would like to see Chris Pereira as part of this group, so I'll go ahead.
I'm going to strongly oppose, and I try not to speak against Ms. Pereira because I think he has done a lot of good for the school district. But I am going to talk about that when we served on the Dartmouth Education Foundation Board, he was strongly opposed to efforts at DeMello to diversify their curriculum, their proposal to put forward books about race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, and he strongly opposed that. And so I will be frank that I oppose him sitting on this committee because he has said in numerous places that he is opposed to the diversity efforts that have come forward in other areas. And I don't really want a person who is opposed to efforts to diversify our curriculum to be part of our diversity committee.
So he said that publicly?
He did. Yeah, I'm sorry, can I?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll echo that because I also sat in that same meeting, and it was just disappointing to, you know, he said he didn't want to politicize the curriculum. He felt that that was more that what DeMello was doing was, you know, entering into a political debate by, you know, pursuing this path of inclusion, and that we should not fund that as the Dartmouth Education Foundation. So that was, you know, to me, I will say that was a red flag for me when I considered his letter, like having, you know, I can't divorce from that history. And I also thought that he was one who had spoken the previous year about not having any discussions around diversity and not pursuing this topic as a, you know, as a committee, you know, so at the start of this, you know, last year. So that was another red flag for me. So I would say that for those two reasons, I mean, he's a, you know, nice guy and all of my, you know, and everything, and he's done a lot for this town, and I appreciate his, you know, efforts with veterans and everything, certainly. But I just, you know, if we're talking about the purpose of this is to be inclusive and try to expand that, I have grave concerns as well. So,
Okay, thank you for that.
yep.
To put it to a vote? So we have a motion on the floor and a second to elect our community members of Elizabeth Murphy and Cheryl Scott.
Shelley Scott.
Shelby?
Shelley.
Shelley Scott. Why can't I?
A little alliteration.
Shelley Scott. On the motion, any further discussion?
Nope.
Chair hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
me.
So we have 4 in favor, 1 against, with Mr. Nunes, Mr. Nunes was against it.
I did not hear who seconded the motion.
The second, who seconded it?
You did. You said.
Oh, I'm
seconded
sorry,
it.
I seconded it. We need an amplification system in here with these, yeah.
It's, yeah.
Who put all these air purifiers in this place?
I know.
Can we get
Poor
quieter air
teachers
purifiers?
trying to, like, you know, project over, and these kids in class trying to also speak up with those little voices in some cases. Oh my goodness, poor things.
Oh my goodness.
Is that good, Kate?
I'm gonna try to yell. Mr. Chair, can I start the conversation about our faculty? And
Sure.
I do think that we have a number of really, you know, strong faculty applicants who came back. You know, I really don't have I think this is an opportunity because we do have strong people to start thinking about who do we have as representatives in terms of, like, from the schools. So we know at this point we have a member from the, you know, high school administration, a member of the middle school administration. So I do think we should have someone on here that is representative of the elementary schools. And that's why I thought Ms. Bloom kind of came to my mind. She's written some very passionate letters. You know, just, talking about, I guess she's been in 4 different schools. She served in 4 different elementary schools across the district. She seems to have a pretty, again, deep immersion with the PALS PASS program. She said, she was urging us to make sure that we do have a social worker or school psychologist, someone of that nature. And I think that is something that it would be helpful for us to bring into the committee and to have that voice. And again, to have someone who's coming from the elementary. Because I noticed when I was doing the list, and, in deference to John, the first time, we did have some other elementary teachers who were a part of that initial list. Those did not come back on the second round. She did. And I thought, again, in both cases, I thought her letter, it was testimony to a lot of thought and care. As far as the other person, again, there were several other, there's a history teacher at the high school, I believe McCarran Keeley, I don't have it in my notes, thought she was also very strong as well. But I do think we do need to have at least one elementary person on so I'll say that.
What was the name again?
Kelly Bloom.
Kelly?
Yep, she's an outreach social worker. And again, I just think she brings in that, that piece.
In what school?
Quinn.
She's at Quinn. I just thought,
I
again,
agree. Yeah.
she was strong in that.
Okay.
So,
Any other thoughts for faculty members?
We're all good.
I would,
I just
I'd
think-
like to ask for consideration to nominate Diane Massari. She's a guidance counselor at the Dartmouth Middle School. I had the opportunity to meet with her on several occasions with one of my own children. She's dedicated, she's very caring, and she talks about in her response here, I have limited cell service, so I was able to pull up some of this. Talks about how she deals with the daily challenges of the social, emotional health of all these students. And I just think that she's someone who would look at the big picture, the broad picture, and not just be kind of a narrow mindset. I have a lot of faith in the integrity of Diane. So that's just my 2 cents.
I think she's,
Yeah.
I think she's, certainly, I had a conversation with her just, again, about my own child just a couple weeks ago, and same thing, with COVID. I think she's, she's thoughtful, and again, and she wants to do everything she can to, really reach the students and keep them in school, and, I think she's impressive, certainly, and just a nice person. But also, I do think, again, this Miss Caitlin McCarran-Dealey also is another, person that brings a lot to the table in her personal studies around this subject. So again, I could go, I don't have strong feelings across because I think they're all very qualified.
Sure. Thank you.
So I think all 3 of them would be strong. I don't have a strong preference one way or the other, but I do believe strongly we should have a teacher. We should have someone who's teaching.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
So,
But you got a little Chamberlain, too.
right, but
Right.
that could go in the mix too. I would say if we're going to have a slot for staff and a slot for staff and teachers, we should have at least one person who is in the classroom.
Yeah.
I mean, not that
make
social
a good
workers
point,
and outreach aren't in the classroom, but like that's their job, is to be teaching and with curriculum. So I think you have 2 on your list who are staff, and then John, you just added a name that you said was a teacher?
I just said Lil Chamberlain.
Oh, Lily Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Lily Chamberlain is
Okay,
a
so
Spanish,
she's
I
also a
believe,
teacher. So
foreign
maybe,
language teacher here at the high
That's
school.
good, yeah, no.
She's an advisor of the Multicultural Club.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, that's
So
good,
those
too.
are
Oh.
sort of, maybe we might think of 2 different slots for those last 2 remaining ones.
I mean, if you wanted,
This is just really difficult. I mean,
is.
well, I mean, sorry, my fault.
Go ahead, Mr.
I know I'm going to violate my own rule here, but in all seriousness, I mean, I agree with what everyone has said about Kelly Bloom, your comment about the young lady from the middle school, and I agree with Shannon, maybe we need a teacher. And again, so maybe, this is one time that we sit here and we go, how about if we have 3 faculty members? I know we talked about 2, but I don't have a problem if we've got 3 because we've got a complete different segment here in the system. We've got an outreach worker, we've got a guidance counselor, and we've got a teacher. It takes it all into play. And again, you've got elementary, middle, and high school represented.
Right.
I think that's, yeah,
It's a great
I
idea.
agree.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it's important that we you know, I would think that moving forward, that any folks that, you know, Mr. Pereira or Mr. Hajij, I can't think, who decided they didn't want to be part of the committee, perhaps it wasn't fitting into their, you know, schedule or ability to kind of, you know, to do that. But Mr. Helgeson, who had a graduate who had said he was interested, that we wouldn't take in feedback, you know, on the committee. Certainly, it would welcome anyone's feedback, ideas, or thoughts, and then, you know, put it to an agenda and then discuss others, you know, and then the committee can kind of make decisions. But I do agree. I with what everyone else is saying as well.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, following up on Mr. Nunes, I'll make a motion to revise the makeup of the committee by expanding the number of staff/teacher slots from 2 to 3.
Second.
On the motion, any further discussion?
No.
So we got a motion by Dr. Jenkins, a second by Mr. Nunes. And there's no other discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, so I did that part. So you all, someone's got to decide the next part, who the 3 are going to be.
Who was the teacher?
So it looks like we have
No.
three teachers in the running.
Ms. Chamberlain and Ms. McCarran-Dealy?
Is it just those
Yeah.
two?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and they're both
Yeah, they're both,
excellent. You
Yeah.
know, I'm reading,
Yeah.
you know, what,
Yeah. And then either
I mean-
Diane or Kelly.
Well, we have 3, so we could do one for the middle, one for the elementary was the decision, right? So that would be the both of them.
we got the two of them.
And then the third slot would be between Ms. McCarran-Dealy and Ms. Chamberlain, yes?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
But someone else has to make that motion. I'm not deciding.
yeah.
Any thoughts and any preferences on the high school?
No, I mean, yeah, again, either Lil or Diane, you know,
Caitlin.
Caitlin is going to be good. Is going to be a good fit. So I'm happy with either
Right.
one of those, personal opinion.
You know, so if I'm just, you know, looking at this, you know, it's so hard, but, you know, Ms. Chamberlain, as you know, again, she, you know, she has, you know, in addition to being a, you know, teacher, she also has, as you said, the Multicultural Club, which she, you know, changed the name to make it more inclusive. She has had, I think, 2 children, she said, that have graduated from Dartmouth High. She's been a teacher here for 7 years. You know, Ms. Dealy, I believe, is also the women's track coach, you know, so she reaches, you know, student athletes, so that might be a consideration. It's, you know, and she, again, in her resume, was equally powerful and strong. Can we make 4?
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make a motion that we appoint Lily Chamberlain to the diversity committee as a representative
Well, you got-
teacher.
You want to do all 3 of
All
them?
3.
Oh, gosh.
You
And
got,
then you have
you got Lil.
Kelly Bloom,
Kelly
Char-
Bloom for
Kelly
elementary
Bloom.
and
Diane Massari.
Diane
Diane.
Massari, middle school, and
Yep.
Lily Chamberlain, high school. That's
Kate,
my
did you
motion.
hear us?
I'm surprised, because
I
I'm
think your
really
voice is
tired
very
and a little mumbly right
So we have a motion by Mrs. Amaral. Anyone want to second that?
Second.
You're very brave.
We have a second by Mr. Nunes. So on the motion to appoint Kelly Bloom, Diane Massuri, and Lily Chamberlain to the Equality and Diversity Committee. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank you.
thoughtful
And
conversation.
thank you to Dr. Jenkins, Ms. Amaral, also for helming that committee from the school committee. So I certainly appreciate that. And we had spoken before, just to kind of follow up, that, you know, there would be a possibility of including more people in the course of that, you know, once that meeting got underway too. Because it sounds like if we have some excellent people, it'd be a shame to, and they want to be part of it and contribute. So I think it would be a shame to, you know,
Exclude
Keep it
them
out,
from,
yeah.
participating
So,
in some
thank
way
you.
at some time.
No?
Thank you.
well done, guys.
No,
Thank you.
thank you, everyone. So next up, under old business, we have a continuing conversation on the return to school after the holiday break. I'm going to turn it over to our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Bonnie Gifford.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So after all the discussion, obviously last week and through the week now, of course, and over the weekend. The first thing I want to talk about is having had students stay home for Quinn today. I just want people to be aware, even though we put it in our letter, just to be clear that it was still, you know, as though we continue to have numbers of students or staff testing positive in our schools. There is still no evidence that we have, even in consultation with Mr. Michaud, of the transmission in school. And all of these cases seem to be, again, fortunately, a number of them have been, students have already been staying home because a parent has been positive, so they've been either already symptomatic or just out of abundance of caution stayed home. So that's been good. So, but over the weekend, when we had a number of issues with close contacts, that's why we had to decide to keep kids home. It was just becoming unmanageable for staffing at that point. As you know, we had the entire cafeteria staff out on, once again, just because they were deemed close contacts. So, being the one day left, we decided that was the best course of action, including we didn't have a chance to look at the bus videos at that time. So I just wanted folks to be aware and clear on that. And also that leads into the discussion about what we plan on doing for after the holidays. Once again, in consultation with Chris Michaud and his staff, the ability, although he says now the ability to get into a test or have a test done seems a little bit better than the last couple of weeks, whether they caught up with themselves or with the Thanksgiving break, whatever it was. So that's been pretty quick. There had been a snag, but also that there's not such a lapse in the test results. So, but with that said, we know that with the holiday coming, we will probably experience a number of difficult close contact situations right after the holiday. So and it can overwhelm our nursing staff to come back from a vacation, especially one as this, you know, this big, if you will, and people getting together. To have to then hit Monday on the ground running, having to close contact and making decisions on who to keep home and not. So with that said, what our plan would be at this point in time is to remain remote for 1 week after the holiday, plan on returning to school hybrid method on January 11th. Now there are some details in that. One of them being that our special education, we would like to return to what we looked like in the fall when we started school. So our special education students who are in programs would come every day again, just like we did. That's those few students, those few programs. That's our plan. All teachers would report to the building to teach, just like we did. Now, as you remember, that means they can go right to their classrooms, they have nobody around, they can keep to themselves. That has worked very well in our cases so far, where they have their resources, they have their colleagues, they have all their materials, and they can remain alone. We would then, the week after vacation, being remote, we would go right back, as I said, to what we did in September, where all cohorts would be remoting in every day. So we wouldn't do a cohort A, cohort B scenario. If we are able to come back January 11th, things are going well, we always want people to be prepared for anything. As we keep saying all year, it's fluid and flexible. And everybody is doing the best job they can, dealing with the situations as they come up every single day. But be prepared. If we have to then say things are crazy, things are hot, whatever it is, we're going to extend it. We want kids in school. We all can agree on that. But we want to be able to manage the staffing, manage the contact tracing, and just take the advice from, again, our Board of Health, et cetera. So if we were to come back on January 11th, which is our plan, full hybrid again, we would just resort back to the hybrid schedule, which is on the calendar. And on another note, of course, we have 1 day extra right now on the calendar, which we'll be adjusting and putting up because of the snow day, the real snow day. The other thing I want to mention is that we are going to have a COVID hotline, if you will, for the vacation time. We'll be posting that. So folks will be able to, if they need to report a case, a positive case or a close contact identification, we'll have one number that folks will be calling into. Mr. Kiley and I will be monitoring that daily so that we can stay ahead of any contact tracing that we have to do in preparation for school reopening. I don't know if I left anything out or questions that folks would have. I'm trying to look at my notes, but that would be our plan at this point.
So right off the top, before I turn it over
Yep.
to any of my colleagues, right off the top of my head, the COVID hotline number, that'll be made available on
Yep.
our website in
Yeah,
communication to
yeah,
parents.
we'll put that out.
Will parents, I assume it'll be a voicemail box where parents
Correct.
will be able to leave a message. Can parents expect a return call, follow-up call, or to acknowledge that someone received it? And
Yep. Yes.
I'm just curious,
yep.
just for our
Right,
parents out there.
Right, we'll both be attending to that. We'll be able to then relay the information to whoever needs to hear, Chris Mishu, et cetera. We'll be taking, or an appropriate principal, et cetera. Like I said, even this weekend, Mr. Granfield at Quinn had so much contact tracing to do, so he was the one with his staff calling people back, et cetera. So yeah, people could expect some kind of communication back.
No, that's really good to know.
Yep.
So, with that, obviously after our last meeting, our remote meeting last Tuesday, I took some time to reflect on everything that was discussed. Number of emails that have continued to come in even as of today to the committee, and I'll just share a couple of my thoughts in what I think of Dr. Gifford's plan. So I'll just start off with, while I can certainly appreciate the thoughtful comments and passionate concerns shared with myself and fellow committee members, I once again, I have to look at what's best for an entire district of students and staff when I'm looking to support Dr. Gifford's decision. I have educated myself in the research and science, but in the end, I know there's no magic answer and there's no right or wrong. At the end of the day, I know that we're going to get emails as a committee from both sides. Whether we make one decision and whether you make one decision, we're gonna have emails from the other side. There are pros and cons to both sides of the argument of staying hybrid or switching to remote. Here's what we know, and this is where it took some time. I really appreciate Chris Michaud's presentation at Tuesday night's meeting. I knew to me that was very helpful. We know families are going to congregate over the holiday. That's a fact. We know that more than likely they're going to be unmasked, right? It appears that right now what we're seeing is what he was presenting is that transmissions are occurring in the household. And this is just me thinking out loud right now, and I kind of put some thoughts together as I was going through, what I would say this evening. While he did say testing was coming more difficult, to Dr. Gifford's point, I do know that South Coast Hospital Group finally opened up an online portal to be able to schedule testing. I can also say, though, that test results are still taking a little bit longer than normal. Before, like I said, originally it was 24, 36 hours when I would get mine, and now it's beyond 48 hours lately, it seems. Going for at least the first week remote in January will give us an opportunity to see trends and for individuals to start experiencing symptoms from holiday contact, as well as those that are experiencing symptoms, they'll have the opportunity to seek out testing. Determining close contacts is time consuming and ultimately results sometimes, like we saw today, in staffing shortages requiring buildings to close. With that being said, I am in favor of at least a 1-week pause of in-person learning, and this is just my personal opinion, with a maximum of 2 weeks if needed. I can't see us going
No.
beyond 2 weeks.
No.
I think 1 week, let's see how it goes.
Right.
And then, depending on the metrics and the numbers and in consultation with the Board of Health, if we need to do an additional week. But I do like the fact that our special education and our high need students will be coming back. But like I said, I personally cannot, because I know there were I received a couple of emails from parents that were saying, I think some of my colleagues probably did too, that, I can't see us going back to last springtime and having unlimited closure at months at a time. No, that's not what, at least I'm saying. I don't think this is what this administration is saying. Dr. Jenkins?
I 100% agree with you, but I want to reiterate, this is on us. right? I mean, this is on us in our community.
Right.
We are in a surge right now, and we are going to have a surge on top of a surge if people don't stay home, right? I don't think people truly understand how hard everyone in this school administration is working doing contact tracing. It is not sustainable for them to keep working and like this, and if this surge continues, for us to be able to staff our schools. People tell me, they'll email me, oh, you know, schools are not spreaders. No, they're not. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is we have to have teachers in the classroom. And if community spread continues at the rate it does, we will not, like we did today at Quinn, we will not have the staff to keep our schools open. I want our kids in school more than anything, but we have to be safe and we have to staff our schools. And if we aren't safe over Christmas, this is not going to change. It's going to get worse. So I support this plan. I hope that we can come back on the 11th, but whether or not we can come back on the 11th depends on all of us doing the right thing. And we got to do the right thing. It stinks, but you know, don't send me an email saying, I want my kids in school and then go to a Christmas party with 20 people, right? Don't do it. If you want your kids in school, stay home with just your family. I'm having Christmas with my husband and my kids, and that's it, because it's the right thing to do, and we all need to do that. Sorry, I'm
Thank
a little
you.
angry about
No,
these things,
no.
but I'm just
No.
frustrated that we need to stick to it and do the right thing, or we're not going to be able to hold it together.
And to your point, I'll just share. There was an incident, not an incident, but there was someone shared with me today that there was someone who's supposed to be in quarantine, and they're on posting on social media in a group of people. So it's just extremely frustrating.
It is.
Mrs. Waite,
You know,
did you?
I'll just, echo what, both, Mr. Oliver and Dr. Jenkins, spoke to. And I would have leaning towards 2 weeks, to be honest, because I was very, struck by what Mr. Michaud said, and I would have, like to have had him here again tonight if possible. I know he's a busy guy, but I was really struck by, the difficulties of, contact tracing, his account of, tests. With that said, a little bit of my anxiety had eased a bit, to your point, to Mr. Oliver's point about testing seeming more accessible. I did go on to the Wales Tooth appointment. I was able to get an appointment just to see if there was availability. I also just put out for my own, I've been doing, of course, we all have been doing a bit of research, just anecdotal, just to find out, are people getting their tests back, in a timely fashion? And it did seem like people in most cases are able to get a test, and they're getting back their test results. Generally sounds like 48 hours, even though in some cases, and I know in my case, I went the Thursday after Thanksgiving, and my test results were back by Saturday morning. So I thought that was earlier, but it still seems like that's the trend, which makes me feel better than when I did hear from Mr. Michaud. But I'm also concerned. I saw a post also on a social media site where people were mocking wearing masks. I mean, and there were people saying, I will high five the person who's not wearing a mask. And I thought, how we are not living in a vacuum. I mean, we see that, and we want to keep our schools open. And and those people who are commenting saying, "Well, high five," I know their parents. I know those names, and it's deeply disturbing and frustrating. And and I feel for the staff, and and I want the staff to know. I mean, we want them to be safe. We want our students to be safe. We care about the staff. I mean, in fact, if our staff are not inspired, not feeling safe, they're not going to be motivated to help our students achieve at their best. And we care about them as individuals too. I mean, they're our colleagues or friends, in the past. So the whole thing is very frustrating. But I think, to all the credits of the school, what we are doing is excellent within the schools. The kids, even, the high school is the biggest concern just because we know it's more difficult to pod, and maybe that's something we need to look at as we kind of think of maybe if we need to push them back. I know that was in stagger it, and we can kind of come to that decision, but we do not see transmission happening within the schools. And for everything that I've read, there's a new article that came out, I kind of passed along with National Geographic that came out, I believe, on the 10th, and it spoke to a lot of this Icelandic study that came out and said, and they had this, Iceland's done a great job, just really with their, studying with contact tracing, and really looking at a cohort of 40,000 people. And what they found is that in most cases, when children can transmit it, but they were 50% less to get it than adults and 50% less to transmit it. And in most cases, it was the adults that transmitted it to children, and it was not children transmitting it the other way. And they did talk about how there seems to be a line with puberty. And that was, I think, again, important for us, like to think about that, you know, our little ones, you know, are not going to be as much risk to the adults. And then again, they came back in the conversation where the risk was parents dropping them off, congregating, hanging out at the gate at a, you know, game. I mean, that's where the concern is. It doesn't seem to be that the concern is, you know, the children, if they're well managed. But this same article spoke to, you know, when you see COVID exploding and uncontrolled in a community, then it is going to seep into the schools. And we're certainly seeing the ramifications in our staffing. We're not seeing our cases, but it is, if it's uncontrolled, we're gonna be in some trouble. So I guess my only request would be, when we're looking at January 11th, before that, if we can meet as a group, you know, either remotely or with Christmas Showed, and just hear from him and have him kind of explain where he sees things, so we can look at the 11th and have at least a few days, even if it's that Monday. Do we have a school committee meeting that first Monday that we come back?
No.
No.
Our first meeting is the
That's what I
11th.
thought. But I feel like we should somehow have some sort of communication as, you know, just even to, you know, reassure like each other and the community that, and to hear from Dr. Clifford, and she says, look, it's been, you know, we're hearing all these reports, just so we know, we can make a decision that we're comfortable with, that we know is not going to overly strain our staff. We're going to keep our staff and our students safe. So that's where I would, sorry for the long thing, but I've
No,
been
that's okay.
agonizing about
To
this
your
all week.
point, Mrs. Waite, and to Dr. Gifford, is there, just for, and I agree, for communication to parents, to let parents know, I don't want to be throwing this at them on a Friday.
Right.
Are we
No.
thinking like like you
Yeah, maybe midweek or so.
midweek
Okay.
that you could brief the committee, even if it's through,
Yeah, that's
through an email would be okay? Is
Yeah,
that
no,
either-
I'd be, yeah, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's, with all due respect, it's gonna be the superintendent's call.
Right.
As to what's going on. I mean, she's gonna have to be in consultation with Mr. Michaud, Dr. Clark, the school physician, you know, things of that nature, and what's going on to make that call. And when she makes it, just send us an email and let us know what's up.
Yeah, I
You know,
would
I mean,
I would
to-
appreciate some kind of communication.
Yeah, I
though,
mean, that-
ahead of
for-
time.
for-
I don't want to be blindsided.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, again, I go back to, you know, what was going on in March when we were talking in March, before the governor took care of everything for us.
Yes.
Type of deal, but, you know, an email communication is fine, or if we need a 10-minute
Right.
Zoom meeting type of deal, you can post it as emergency.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't need the 48 hours, because it's an emergency, and away we go.
Right. I think the bottom line. Well, let's hear from Mrs. Amaral. Did you have anything else, Mr. Nunes?
No, I'm good.
So just for clarification, I mean, I agree. I'm concerned, worried about our students, about our staff, about everyone, about our community. But going back to the students who had been identified previously as complex or high needs, those students would not have a pause. They would return. Your proposal potentially
yeah.
would be that they return on the 4th.
Yes,
Okay, as they had done.
Just
that
like they've been
September
doing,
15th.
yes.
Okay, that's really great.
I mean,
Thank you.
again, I want to stress the idea that it's not that we've had this giant explosion of cases in the
Right.
school, but to be able to manage what might become a contact tracing
Right.
issue as soon as we get back to school, to have that slow little bit of roll in with fewer students in, to be able to manage that and staffing, to give our staff a breather and be able to, like I said, our nurses not be under that giant amount of stress. Because even on the weekends, I have to say, this weekend, the hours that were spent by a number of our staff members, including Mr. Granfield's group, Mr. Kiley, myself, it was countless hours. So to think about coming back from a vacation and then bang, either the weekend just right then and there, that Monday. So let's give folks a little bit of time. So that's what I want to stress. It's
Yeah.
not that I'm saying there's a bazillion cases and we have to close down.
Sure.
So with that fewer students in, like we did before, and then move right in back into our hybrid.
Okay. And before I have other questions, but before I do that, could you or Mr. Kiley go into detail about what that really entails, like what you have to look for when you have a case? So,
Yep.
you know, in saying it,
Yep.
I hear it, I get it, but in some sense, it's kind of, it can be kind of breezed over, like,
Right.
oh, they have to look into.
Yeah.
Could you kind of go a little bit into detail so
Yeah.
that the community
Well, there's two
understands?
pieces.
To your flash drives.
Yeah, there's two pieces. I mean, there's the first piece, one of us gets a phone call from somebody.
Yeah.
Between the nurses, the principals, Mr. Michaud, ourselves. And then usually the principals then will contact trace within the school. And that usually entails, on a number of cases, they call the teachers that would have had the student. Students may have had siblings in the school, which would then involve a number of grade levels. Students may have seen various interventionists, speech people, etc. So we're looking, and the principals or their administration will have a conversation with those teachers to say, to really get a good sense of what that classroom looks like. Now, we're priding ourselves on the 6-foot distance, the mask wearing, all of that. But yet, sometimes you have the littlest guys, you know, it's hard to say 100% that they were not close contacts, 15 minutes, et cetera, et cetera. So, and there's the anxiety level as well. So sometimes the abundance of caution, we deem someone a close contact that might not have been. Then Mr. Kiley can talk about what he does with the buses. That's another issue.
Sure, and in addition, it's not just teachers, it's playground monitors, there's a questionnaire that we go through with
Yep.
each staff member, it's teacher assistants, it's different staff throughout the buildings. And if it's a student or a staff member, it varies as to how we go through that contact tracing protocol. So it's a lot
Involved.
of work. And that's just to get to the point where you identify close contacts. Then there's a whole nother issue about where we go from there in terms of communicating with
Calls.
families and staff members and giving them information that they have been identified as a close contact and that they'll be contacted by the Board of Health. And so it takes, I mean, these Quinn cases took us all weekend.
All weekend.
But also the bus
Bus.
comes on a little, so on Sunday, I went over to Tremblay's to pick up these little drives with bus videos on them. And basically what that involves is seeing who is near students, within 6 feet of students who have tested positive, and for how long. And if it's more than 15 minutes and they're within 6 feet, then we identify them as close contacts. If behavior on the bus isn't great, so if students aren't, for some reason, take off their mask first, or eat or drink something, or are not sitting where they're supposed to, or there's just it's a process. So we go through that, and the same thing from there. We identify the close contacts, and the schools, the principals have just really worked so hard to try and communicate with families and worked with Dr. Gifford and I on this. It's been a lot on a lot of people
I
to
can
get
only
this,
imagine.
to do this.
Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Jenkins?
So I very much appreciate all the work that you all are doing, but one, I'm concerned that you all are going to burn out. And two, it's not a particularly efficient use of our resources to have our superintendent and our assistant superintendent and our principals, who are the most highly paid people in our district, to be doing this. So I know, Mr. Kiley, you hate to go to the town to ask for additional resources, but I don't wonder, over the next several months, we are probably still going to be in surge and have a lot of cases. Can we hire someone to help do this work? It might be a temporary hire for just a few months. To do that, we need help. And whether we have accounts in our own sort of line items where we've been saving money where we could do that, or where we could ask the town for some money from the stabilization fund, this would be a one-time use of revenues. It wouldn't be someone that we would hire permanently, maybe for a couple months, just to help you do this work, because again, it's just not good use of our resources. And I don't want you all to keel over, right, from exhaustion from doing this, but I don't wonder whether we can't do some temporary hires to help deal with this.
No,
because-
that's an excellent point, Mr. Kiley.
I mean, I appreciate that, and, you know, obviously we could talk about how that might work. I mean, the town's monies in terms of the CARES Act are expiring December 30th. So they won't have any direct money from that
We
to
do
be
have
able
a
to help.
stabilization fund.
But the town has, on their
free
end,
cash.
on the
What's
Board
that
of Health
called?
side, brought in some
Can't go to
additional
the staff
staff.
fund, you gotta go to the reserve fund.
The reserve fund, a
reserve
reserve
fund,
fund transfer.
yeah.
That's what I mean.
And,
Thank you.
you know, so they
Yes.
are paying for additional staff on the Board of Health side to assist with this. I mean, it's a lot on us, but it's also important that we have people who understand what we do and how we do it, to do this work, because, I mean, this isn't, you can't take this lightly. I mean, this is, so you really need to understand our system, I think, in order to be able to do this correctly. But
I do want to mention also, we didn't even say about the nurses, the work that they help out with,
Right.
of course. It's a lot. And a lot, too.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's a lot on everyone.
It
And-
is.
and in addition to your normal everyday routines, yearly, the timelines that you have to meet with DESI, with reporting,
Oh.
with reports, and everything else that goes along with
Right.
being a district administration. So I think if that's something you could at least maybe look into, you know, I think this committee would support it. I can't speak for everyone, but I think it's at least worthwhile, because Dr. Jenkins is right that it is time consuming, and it's a huge burden trying to contact trace and figure this out.
It
And like
is.
you said, that's just the first step. So, but thank you.
Yep,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Was she still finishing?
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just had some other questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'll try to be quick. I know I go on tangents sometimes, but so our high needs population that would be coming in, I'm guesstimating that's around, and I'm not thinking of preschool. I really don't have an idea. I'm thinking we've got about 40, 50 students.
It's actually about 100
counting preschool.
with the programs.
Okay. So 100 total. I don't know if this could be done, but something, you mentioned at the beginning, fluid and flexible. I have that right on the top of my paper. And one other thing that the DESI has been clear about, and we are doing a great job. I don't know how we fall into with the new regulations.
We're a little
but
short.
Slightly short, but I mean, I'm sure not much compared to a third of
Right,
the
right,
Commonwealth,
yeah, not
who
much.
are vastly at not doing as well as us. So we're doing great, and I applaud everyone for that. Okay, obviously we can always do better. That's the mantra, right? But one thing that DESI has been saying is that the guidance is the floor; it's not the ceiling. And so I wonder, now that here we are proposing a pause, not for our high needs and our complex kiddos, but proposing, and it's just a week, right? Or potentially,
Yep,
we haven't voted.
hopefully.
Hopefully, and I would like a week, and obviously if
Right.
it needs to be expanded, but I would like to go back to something else that was in the guidance, where the special ed guidance, where it did say, and maybe we do this on a case-by-case basis. I'm sure we probably do. I'm thinking of one case where we might actually do this, where we have somebody who might not be in a program per se, but needed the extra and is in person.
You're right.
So,
You're right.
which is wonderful. So thank you
Yep.
for those people that made those decisions. But one thing that is listed as well, that I'm wondering if we had a way to include a more comprehensive rather than a pause. It says, we encourage districts to prioritize the following groups of students, even if everyone else is remote or hybrid. I won't leave the list. We know it. We know that we know high needs. But it does also talk about students who are significantly behind academically, and students who are disengaged and are struggling significantly during previous remote learning periods. I wonder, I would like to see us, if we could, I'm sure teachers can identify who those students are, and it might not be a lot, and I'm not saying we can bring all of them in, but if there were a number that we couldn't go past, and maybe it's an additional 20 students that are struggling the most but don't fit that complex high need category, if there was a way that we could do something more for them, I would love to see that happen, now that we know who those students are.
Right.
I don't
Yeah, I
know.
know there are a handful that
Okay.
are doing that, but what exactly the number is, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'd have to check on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Kathleen. Mary?
Yeah, I
Did
just
you-
had I just wanted to follow up question as we were back talking about contact tracing. Mr. Michaud seemed pretty concerned that those at our last meeting, that there was a significant delay with, reporting and everything else. Did he, in more recent conversations, seem to suggest that issue has been mitigated? He just seemed to say it was so far out in some cases that it was not useful, which again, to me, was really concerning. So when he was saying that.
He didn't really say much about the testing coming in, but one thing that he mentioned was the idea, like, for example, if we know a case or so that the students were at a party, we've been trying really hard to identify who those folks were, and that's been helping as we get tests, because it might be so delayed that we already have folks that we know might be involved. I didn't hear him say anything about the test results coming back that much more quickly, but
No,
they're
no.
very,
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's an issue.
And then the other thing I wanted to point out is, to your point, again, getting back to reason why, we support, or I support the extra week, is that, quite a few of the testing centers are actually closed. So, I mean,
Yep.
that is something that we didn't come up, but,
Yep.
just looking, I know Wales Tooth has a half day on the 23rd, it's closed the 24th, 25th.
Sure.
And I believe it also is closed on the 1st, the 31st, and I
Yep.
believe part-time maybe on the 30th. So again, it'll be Saturday and Sunday if you can get in and get an appointment, but it's going to be backed up with appointments too. And then he mentioned about batching. So again, like, even more reason is that it's going to be more
Yeah.
difficult for people to get appointments during that time frame. So,
Yep.
I certainly, again, the week at minimum.
Right.
So.
So I just think we want people to know, once again, none of the decisions
Yeah.
are ever taken, lightly, and we understand folks' daycare issues and all of that, but we just think this is the best course of action for everybody involved at this point. We'll keep them updated.
Right. So we're looking at midweek of that,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
first week.
Yeah.
So that
And so be prepared. Just be
Reevaluate,
prepared.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's relevant. Ms. Genther just sent out an email, someone asking why set it the 11th, why not set it the 13th? The date would be the 11th, but we'd get that information and have that discussion
Yeah.
midweek of the 4th.
Right.
Perfect.
Okay,
Let's
see.
see.
Right to the update.
Yeah, so next up,
There's a lot.
we have the superintendent's update, Dr. Gift.
Yeah, I'll run through a bunch of things. So, as you know, tomorrow is a professional development day, and teachers, the schools are going to be doing kind of a half day of department meetings, school meetings, etc. But also, what we've done this year is we have this master teacher online professional development that we've engaged in. So people are going to be able to independently work on these courses, and they have to then turn in their certificates to have the credit given. For example, the teacher e-learning bundle it's 189 self-paced workshops, and people have already started to engage in them, and there a lot of good feedback. We have some for the TAs as well. So we're pretty pleased with that. It's self-paced courses in general education, instruction, behavior, environment, social emotional, all kinds of things. Let's see, the Stat South Coast EMS had emailed Ms. Genthner this week, and actually last week, it's Monday, and we engaged with Allie Cato Galligan at the middle school. They donated 30 stockings for needy families, so they're giving 10 per school Christmas stockings. So that was really nice of them to reach out to us for that. I don't think I mentioned back a month or so, the Grange, Dartmouth Grange, once again donated dictionaries to our grade 3. Those were brought to the schools. I don't think I mentioned that, so I wanted to make sure. We have, just making sure I have all of this, a lot with athletics right now. One thing which we need to congratulate Andy Crisafulli, he now has been awarded the Massachusetts Athletic Director of the Year. He let me know that today.
Oh,
So he
congratulations.
was, yeah, it is. I said, well, I guess you were retired, right?
Yay.
Absolutely.
So he got a nice email that it's a reflection of his dedication and commitment to interscholastic athletics in the state of Mass. And I'm sure he's listening, so congratulations, Mr. Christofouli. Also, let's see, I just wanted to mention that with, as a reminder, basketball and ice hockey, we will be engaging in that. And DC, we will continue to have no fans, and I could never advocate for fans at this point in time. We will look into the senior night like we did before with the other team, other seasons, of course. But I talked with Mr. Christofouli today, and he did tell me that he's really had a lot of conversation with DCTV, so they'll be filming, and it would be look real good for the basketball games that they can do some, if not all, the JV, because the equipment is there already in the games. Ice hockey, they're still working on that to have the right equipment at the rink and be able to film some of those games. So that's, let's see, that's for that. I have all of that. And then I was going to have Mr. Kiley talk a little bit about some of the things going on in the schools with the air purifiers, the food service, and other things. So.
Thank you, Dr. Gifford. So in food service, it's important to note that with the decision now regarding the week of January 4th, that we will offer a food distribution for families. So similar to what we were doing previous to this school year, we will, more details to follow exactly when. We're thinking early that week, but we will have a food distribution. We had one today, and we also offered families from the Quinn School, since we had this issue today where we couldn't, we couldn't come to school. We served 3,500 meals today.
Wow.
From the middle
Good job
school
by everybody.
pickup.
Yeah,
So
excellent job.
I just wanted to thank Gene Sheridan and the cafeteria staff. They've been doing an amazing job.
That's amazing.
Keeping everyone fed. So in terms of air purifiers, I've been working for a couple of months on a deal with the state. Originally, it was to collectively buy air purifiers, and I've been looking at this now for 6 months. But the state sort of jumped on board a couple of months ago and said, if we can help districts, we'd like to. And I immediately sent an email, yes. As it turns out, they came through this past week with 200 air purifiers
great.
for the Dartmouth Public Schools. So they're a nice unit, they're powerful. They are also free to us, and they're being paid for by, we didn't know that at the time, so, but they're being paid for through CARES Act money, through the state's share. So I'd just like to thank Rick Ferreira and the maintenance crew, Ricky Mello, Joe Medeiros, and Mr. Doan, who also grabbed a box cutter and helped with some air purifiers, and we got 200 air purifiers out into classrooms, which takes a while to do that. We now have about 500 HEPA air purifiers in the district. So helping keep people safe and providing additional healthy airflow into the classrooms. So
That's great, man. That's wonderful news that we
that's
were able to
excellent.
get
Nice job.
200 through the state.
Yeah.
To your point, Mr. Kiley, you were able to get that many out. Are there still, where are we at with, does every classroom have one now?
yes, every classroom has one. Most other spaces have an air purifier. So for instance, the library office over there has an air purifier. There's an air purifier right behind the TV over there. In the library, there's several
Yeah,
others.
there's one over
There's
there.
one right there. There's probably one somewhere out. There's a couple more in this room. So there's some spaces like the auditorium that we can't really purify. It's just too
Sure.
too much volume in that space. But we've spread them out throughout the district. We're continuing to redistribute. So we had the original ones that I could get were about half as powerful as that unit over there. But we could get them, so I did, and we're in the process now of moving those to smaller spaces. So, for instance, that office will have a smaller one, guidance counselors' offices, and main offices, and so we're in that process, and I was lugging some more around today. But we're getting there. And the ones that I bought, the last set that I bought, which are a large unit, the largest ones that we have, we just got awarded an Eversource grant that paid $18,000 of the cost for those. So, which was about half of the cost of those units. So the town will get that money ultimately. And,
So make no mistake about it, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah.
We're
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Of,
we're dealing
it's
with,
a lot of
with
money.
these HEPA filters.
Yeah, it is, but it's been good. The town has supported that through their CARES Act funding. So as they are continuing to support HVAC improvements in the buildings, and we had crews up on the roof here for now 2 weeks. We've had them up there.
Good. Mr. Nunes?
Yeah, just real quick, Mr. Kiley. If we had to buy those 200, what would that have cost the town? Forget, without the grant or anything of that nature.
Yeah. So these units are about 400 apiece.
But that would've been-
So I mean, they're relatively inexpensive in the world of air purifier. So I think when we look at what we've been able to accomplish with the Eversource grant and with the state stepping in, and I mean, we've really done a lot with a fairly small amount of money.
Yeah.
We have spent about $700,000 of the town's $3 million CARES Act funding that the schools have. And
That's-
I can't say enough about Greg Barnes and that team there helping us with that. And they have not hesitated to help in any way when I've asked. So that's a combination of air purifiers, HVAC repairs, not very much PPE. Most of that is on our side through our grant, but quite a bit of technology funding to assist in what we've been trying to accomplish. And Jonathan has had his work cut out for him. We've gotten quite a bit of influx of technology that's helping with this whole hybrid situation and remote situation. So it's been great. It really has.
No, I think it's safe to say that we've come a long ways in the past
Wow.
couple of
Yeah.
months.
Yeah, we have.
Yep.
I mean, if you think about it in all seriousness, go back to when we started with hybrid and we were, rummaging our way through it, and tonight, we've had meetings with, the presenters being remote and being able to hear what we're saying and we can talk to them.
Right.
Type of deal. Hats off to, Mr. Galashaw and Mr. Parati and his high school students for what they're doing. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I think it goes without saying that we have a lot of talented and dedicated individuals working in the Dartmouth school system.
We're lucky.
And also a thank you to DCTV for everything they've
Yeah.
done too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have a phenomenal community television program here.
Oh,
Sure do.
Anything else?
That's about it.
No, I really don't have anything other than, just a big thank you. Just a big thank you to everyone. The countless hours, extra hours that everyone has, I know that everyone from the classroom teachers all the way up to central office, building principals. I know Dr. Gifford brought it up, but I think it really is important that we do acknowledge our nurses. This is a whole new age that we're in and that they're dealing with. And there was actually a nice article, I think, in one of the recent papers discussing and highlighting the important role that school nurses play
good.
play right now. So hats off to them. But yeah, no, just please, everyone. This goes to everyone
Stay home when you're
over
sick.
here at this side of the table. Please take some time to
Right.
yourself to
Yeah.
enjoy your
Right.
families, whether you're social distancing and Zooming with your extended family. Exactly. So on behalf of myself, I wish everyone a happy holiday, and to all of our, our faculty and staff at home, and to all our community members, just wish you a safe, happy, healthy holiday, and please do the right thing and social distance.
I just wanted to remind everyone that our viewers may not have seen this, but I know a lot of the school community watches. Ms. Amaral might know the town hired a new youth
I was just
advocate.
gonna
What's
say,
her
yeah.
name?
Yeah, so this week, I'm super excited. I've worked with her in the past. Dolores Joseph was hired as our youth advocate, and I would like to see, I had spoken to Chris, have her
Yep.
come in to a meeting to sort of talk about what her plans are. I know she hit the ground running.
And I mean, for community members too, she is a resource if
Absolutely.
families are struggling.
No, that's actually a really good point. And then
over the
to
holidays, yeah.
Kathleen actually reached out to me. Dr. Gifford and I discussed it. We didn't put it on tonight's agenda, but
Right, we want to meet her.
Right.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
she's
she
lovely.
will. We would love to have her come out to one of our school committee meetings, introduce herself, and I think like you said, a lot of community members probably don't know that we have a youth advocate. So
She's a
and what
great-
an excellent
I hear
resource.
She's great and a great resource for anyone. While the schools are closed and maybe there's less access to some of those things, that she might, even though she's new, she's a veteran of these things. So she's a resource for families who are struggling. Yeah.
I saw that post. Yeah.
Yeah.
no, I saw from
Yeah,
you
I saw
too.
the post today. That was great.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Mr. Nunes?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quick, just want to congratulate the Dartmouth High School Theater Company for their great production that they did over the past couple of weeks of their show, A Wonderful Life. You know, even with the pandemic, you know, as the old saying goes, the show must go on, and they did a great job. You never knew, again, almost sounded like high school graduation, how they just cut and spliced it all together, and it just really flowed very nicely. So my congratulations to Dennis Lawrence and Shirley Byers, the co-advisors, and all the students for a job well done. So,
Thank you.
Anything else?
Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Our
second
next regularly scheduled meeting of the Dartmouth School Committee is January 11th, yes?
Yes.
Yep.
At this time, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Noon, second by Mrs. Waite. On the motion, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Merry Christmas, happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas,
Night,
Happy New Year.
everyone.
Be safe. Social distance.
Oh.
Good night.